Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the tennis vlog at the end of round 4 of this year's French Open. So, quarterfinals time. Did have the drawers up. Messed them up. Anyway, I'm semi on time for once, which makes a change. Quarterfinals. So the women's quarterfinals are starting tomorrow, and haven't got up my little screen to make sure this is actually streaming, although I believe it is because it says that people are watching. Yes. Okay. It is going. So I can see what you have to say. Brilliant. Okay. So, I dawdle about way too much at the beginning of each video. So, semi-finals, quarter-final lineup. We have, for the men, Rafael Nadal versus Diego Schwartzman, Marin Cilic versus Juan Martín del Potro, Marco Cecchinato versus Novak Djokovic, and Dominic Thiem versus Alexander Zverev. And then for the women, we have Simona Halep versus Angelique Kerber, Garbiñe Muguruza versus Maria Sharapova, Yulia Putintseva versus Madison Keys, and Sloane Stephens versus Daria Kasatkina. Any surprising names to you there? There are a handful of players, a couple of players maybe I did not expect to see there, but interestingly enough, I find that the two non-seeded players who are in the quarterfinals I had on my radar from the beginning of the tournament, so I can talk a bit more about that later. But feel free to ask me any questions about the fourth round matches that have just been and the fourth round matches that haven't just been, hint, hint, and also the upcoming quarterfinals, because I'll start doing preview and predictions videos for the semi-finals onwards, because the scheduling just makes that easier. I've seen you've begun to leave comments, so hello, welcome to the people who are watching live for the first time. I know that time zones and stuff don't work for everyone, so sorry about that. Why is it frozen? Oh no, it hasn't. That was just me messing around. Okay. Fabulous. So, some people not so happy that Serena withdrew from that match with Maria Sharapova, so any questions regarding that, feel free to ask them. But first of all, I missed some questions on my last video that I said I would answer, and also I have some more from Twitter. So, from the ones that I missed, and one of the ones I missed was because I didn't actually want to answer it first of all, so I said I would come back to it, and then I didn't. So the question is, do you favour Grand Slams returning to best of 3 sets for the men? No, I do not. And here I'm going to say that, I mean, I have addressed this a number of times that I'm very much in favour of best of 5 sets, but for me to fully go into detail about why that is, I would either need to write a couple of essays or do a whole video dedicated to the subject, or even do a series of videos dedicated to it. So if you would be interested in a YouTube series defending best of 5 sets, then let me know and I can make that happen, because it's something that I can talk for England about. So yes, I am very much against best of 3 sets at the slams for men for a number of reasons, which if I began I wouldn't stop, and we just don't have the time for that in this particular video. The other question that I missed was, is it time for Roland-Garros to install lights? Because this is one Grand Slam, and I think the only Grand Slam where not only do they not have a roof, a retractable roof for the centre court, but also they don't have floodlights in order for the players to keep playing at a stupid o'clock in the morning. So my answer for this would, I see the arguments for and against. I think mainly for lights. I mean, it can't massively hurt to have lights. How do we answer this? Well, there is the one thing that I would say against having lights at Roland-Garros is that you could have matches going on and on and on into the early hours. What if you had an Isner versus Mahut style match, maybe like half the length of that fifth set or something, but going on at the French Open, because at the US Open it's fine because you've got the fifth set tiebreak, final set tiebreak. At Wimbledon, you are not allowed to continue play beyond a certain time night, so it's not kind of intruding on that time. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure how it works at the Australian Open. I know that matches have gone on to around 2 a.m., past 2 a.m. And the thing is with clay courts that because of the surface and the way matches are, matches can go on considerably long. We've seen a few marathon matches already at this year's French Open. So if they were to install lights, I would say they would need to have a set time by which matches are not allowed to go on beyond that time, because at the moment play can be ending too early. There have been countless matches. Most days of the tournament this year, there have been matches carried over from the previous day, and it's getting dark around probably 9:45 local time, 10 o'clock. It's actually too dark to play, so it would be very helpful to them to install lights is the short answer. I'm not good at short answers. It's really warm this evening. Yes, good evening all. Team versus Zverev, your pick. Zverev versus Team, one of the good rivalries of the past couple of years. At one stage I had watched every match and I had it set in my mind I will watch every match of this rivalry, because I had a feeling from their first encounter that it would be going on for a good 10 or 15 years, or well, maybe not that long, but a long time. I mean, someone or some people have to take over where the big four are leaving off. So it's interesting, that one, because I'm just going to pull up the head-to-heads. I'm pretty sure they played recently on clay, and Zverev came out on top in that one, but before that, Team had won all their clay court meetings. So let me just double check on that one. As usual, no prep, because we like this to be authentic, right? That's why I don't prepare for these particular videos. So let's see. Dominic Thiem leads the head-to-head 4-2. And Zverev did indeed win their most recent meeting in the Madrid Masters final after Thiem had disposed of Rafael Nadal in very impressive fashion. Straight sets for Zverev there. And before that, Thiem had won all three of their previous clay court meetings, including a meeting at the French Open in 2016 that I remember very well, which was very close in the opening stages when Zverev got the 6-7, 7-6 tie-break first set anyway, and then Thiem won the next three sets 6-3, and Zverev kind of dropped off a bit. Since 2016, it was during that year that Zverev, probably towards the end of 2016, Zverev really began to establish himself as a rising top player. So I'd say that it would be very much a different story when they meet this time. Thiem has been playing fairly well at the French Open. Maybe people would have expected him to play a bit better given his form beforehand, and the way he is sometimes known as the Prince of Clay these days, because he is basically the second most consistent player on the surface. But that was until Zverev started really rising, and Zverev's becoming very consistent on all surfaces really, apart from maybe grass, but the grass court season is really short, so that shouldn't really count because there's not really that long to perform. I'm rambling, but yeah, Thiem always had the edge on clay, but he's never actually won a straight sets match on clay, and I think Zverev is in a very different mental headspace to what he was in 2016. I keep saying in 2018, you can just see a new maturity about him in the way he approaches matches and the way he deals with tough situations. I mean, he's come through 3 5-set matches now, and yes, maybe these weren't matches where he should necessarily have been struggling, but what was impressive about them is the way he handled them with his head game and managed to claw himself out of really difficult situations, which is what he's been doing a lot over the past few weeks. It shows that he's not just a player who can win okay when he's on the front foot and dominating. He can think his way through matches, and He has a lot of weapons and a lot of different skills, and he uses them very well on the clay. For someone so tall, he moves really well. He's got the serve to set himself up. He's got a really decent return. So all good for Zverev, and team, his game is made really well for clay. He can be very consistent. We can see obviously how he approaches things with such a great he really thinks out his game plan beforehand, as you could see against Nadal. So this one, I mean, I'm just rambling because this one's really close and I haven't really thought too much about who would actually come out on top. Because if you're looking at the matches to date, you'd be more inclined to say that Thiem will win because Alexander has been struggling. But at the same time, it was a massive milestone for Zverev to get to the quarterfinals because this is his first Grand Slam quarterfinal. He has been struggling on these major stages. And I think you can't help but have that at the back of your mind when everyone's always talking about it. He's handled it incredibly well. He's not putting the sort of expectation on his shoulders that other people are because he truly believes that at some point it's all going to come together for him. And I think that mindset has helped him relax and come through some of those really tough matches. But I think having got to this quarterfinal stage will maybe free him up a bit, and he's playing a familiar opponent and a good friend in Thiem. So this might see him just loosen up a little and be more of the player that we saw in Rome. Thiem is just hard to predict because last year he steamrolled through Djokovic at the French Open and then got crushed by Rafael Nadal. So it's just hard to say how he'll perform on any given day at the moment. It's a tough one. I can't call it without having properly assessed it. I lean slightly towards Zverev, and then I remember Thiem's consistency across clay courts and his greater experience at this level, and I lean back towards Thiem. So it's seesawing. Let me know what you think and your predictions. That would be very interesting. Let's have another look. Another. Sorry, I've missed a load. What are your thoughts on Camilla Giorgi? I think she has a lot of talent. She just needs to get more consistent. I think you can say that about the majority of players, to be honest. Take any WTA player from the top 100 and they have talent to an extent, but having that consistency is what separates the best from the goods or even the average, because to be a top tennis player you have to have a full package. You've got to have the physical game, the head game, the ability to perform in the big moments. And Georgie's a hot and cold player. She has a solid game, she has a good game, and she used to be a bit better at pushing the top players. For Giorgi, if she doesn't act soon, I feel like she's one of the players for whom it may be forever wondered what could have been, because she clearly is a talent. But there are other players. I haven't watched Giorgi in a while, to be fair, but I think there are other players who maybe have just a wider repertoire than her and maybe are a bit more versatile. You just have to have that ability to perform across all surfaces, and yeah, she does have a lot of talent, but at this stage in her career, if she's still struggling for consistency, it's not a great sign. In Great Britain, people are always talking about Heather Watson, and she's shown that she has, great talent, and she's not the most aggressive player, which isn't going to help her, because largely if you're a more attacking player and a more aggressive player, the match is going to be on your racket a lot of the time and you have more chance of going up the rankings. But she showed against Serena at Wimbledon is the most obvious example that she can push the top players, but she just hasn't had consistency, and that is what separates the better players from the not so great players at the end of the day. Everyone has talent to an extent. It's like Rafael Nadal. I always remember him in his book, which was published in 2010. I think he mentioned that between the top 10 and the top 200, there's not much of a gap in terms of talent and ability. It's all about the mental aspects in the head game, and I've said before, I think it's 50% of the game really at this level, so if not more. So that's Giorgi for you. Oh, I thought this as well. Really interesting that Kasatkina, Stevens, Keys, or Putintseva is going to be a finalist. Wouldn't have expected one of those players in the final. What about you? I'm going with Keys here. Well, first of all, I want to mention Yulia Putintseva because she was in the quarter containing Venus Williams, Yelena Ostapenko, and that lot that crashed out on the first day of the competition. And when I saw the list of players remaining in the quarter, I was drawn to Putintseva because she has performed on clay before. She was a very promising teenager, but just didn't break through with the rest of the players around her kind of age range. I mean, she was rising up with the likes of Sloane Stevens, Laura Robson, Madison Keys. Not that Robson is really anywhere at the moment, but she was at one point. And Putintseva made quarterfinal tape before. In fact, I'm not sure where she got to last year because I remember when we reached the quarterfinal stage last year, I was definitely drawn to Ostapenko's name, and then she ended up winning the thing. But I wonder if Putintseva was in that quarterfinal lineup as well, or near enough. I know she was definitely in the quarters of the French Open in 2015 because she gave Serena a bit of a run for her money in that year where Serena really had to fight to the title, and Putintseva showed that even though she's small, she's the ability to drop shot, to move her opponent around, and she has that great intensity, and it can annoy people, but I quite like it, to be honest. I like it when a player shows passion and commitment and all that kind of thing. I mean, maybe she goes a bit OTT, but I like that kind of commitment to what someone's doing. It's not showing me here. I'm going to go on the WTA website and see her most recent French Open results. But basically what I'm saying here is don't overlook Putintseva, because just because she's the lesser accomplished and non-seeded player, it's very easy to overlook her name in the draw. But actually, she's playing Madison Keys, I believe. Give us a moment. Yeah, she's playing Keys. Keys obviously has been in really good form. She's been coming through quite easily and unexpectedly because Keys is someone with the raw power and talent who can kind of turn it on any given day and be very much off on another. You'd think of her more as a fast court player, but she has done well on clay courts before, done stuff in Charleston and elsewhere. But the thing with Keys is that she is maybe more likely to be troubled by someone like Putintseva, who's a lot smaller than her, who can make her move. And there is actually the opportunity for Putintseva to come through that because she's very much unlikely to be troubled in terms of intimidation by Keys. I doubt she'll be intimidated. They're a similar age. She's not going to be too daunted by the fact that she's made a Grand Slam final, even because actually Keys could have done a lot more by this stage and things. But because Keys day, but Stevens impressed. She's but I'm just not sure she's quite ready to break through. I'm not surprised that would mental strength today. When they came back out at 3-all, I think a lot of people were thinking, oh, it's going to completely stall her rhythm. She's younger, she's more inexperienced. Then she came out and she won the last 3 games, so very good on Kasatkina. But 4 very interesting and unpredictable players there, so it's going to be interesting to see how that pulls out. But I can't say who I think will be in the final, but I do repeat again, keep an eye on Putintseva, and she might get thrashed now, but yeah. Is this still working? It is. Good. Okay. Where are we up to? But yeah, I mean, there's a very good chance of Keys getting through if she just sustains it. One day to the next. All on results, it makes it a much heavier atmosphere, so players that don't like gonna be quite sure why. Just let me know if it is. And it could be to do with the Wi-Fi. Do you think Cecchinato has any chance versus Djokovic? I thought so, but then I read that they often train together, so Cecchinato loses the I've never played this dude advantage. That's interesting. I didn't know that they train together. I should probably be more on top of things. Marco Cecchinato, I have had my eye on this guy for the last 2.5 years or something like that. It's been quite funny actually, because everyone's been like, who the heck is this guy? How's he beating people? And I'm like, yes, saw him on clay a few years ago and I said he was good. He had a bit of a match fixing issue at one point and was banned for a short period. It was all a bit strange, but he just has a great clay court game, and I've seen him playing Gilles Simon and Milos Raonic and just several players, and just been very impressed by the way he handled it. He pushed Fognini really well at one point, and I was just kind of thinking, this guy is just kind of heading towards his breakthrough. And then he won his first ATP title on clay a few weeks ago, and I thought, oh, this is interesting. It was only a 250, but it's still that next step up, because he plays a lot of challenges, or has done, Cecchinato. Now he's in the top 100, now he's won a title, he's starting to get big wins. So I wouldn't say he has no chance against Djokovic. Definitely it's probably unhelpful that he is a regular practice partner for Djokovic, because that will probably put Djokovic more at ease and he will have the upper hand as the more elite player, I guess. Djokovic, I mean, why am I such a skeptic about Djokovic at the moment? I think it's because I've kept thinking he's coming back, and I've always said that Djokovic will come back from this slump, because he's a great player, a great champion. It was very much a confidence issue for him, I felt, and his whole game was founded on this dominance and intimidation factor that he built up with his great results, and when that went flat, he just lost his consistency, and he never had a key weapon in terms of his physical game. He just had a great all-round physical game, but it was founded very much on his mental game. So I would probably expect Djokovic to come through, just because I think if and when Djokovic gets beaten, I think it would be a more top player such as Nadal or Thiem who would take out Djokovic. And he's won all his matches in straights so far, but hasn't really been... I mean, he hasn't been massively pushed. Oh no, and he hasn't won all his matches in straights. Sorry, he lost a set to Roberto Bautista Agut. So it shows that he's not in vintage form, and as I've said before, last year he looked decent, got to the quarterfinals and got hammered by Thiem. But in this particular matchup, Cecchinato has a chance. He's a talented guy, but all things considered, Djokovic will probably win that match. Interesting, okay. Okay. Bonus question about Zverev. He seems casual about the 5-set thing. Saw him joke about being young and can play 10 sets. Do you think this is a kind of a bluff? I just think Zverev's happy to be coming through. I mean, it's very difficult mentally when people think at the age of 21, I mean, he's won 4 Masters 1000 titles, which is insane, and people automatically assume he should be doing great things at slams. It's very difficult to be able to stay in your own bubble and just concentrate on yourself and what you're doing when everyone's kind of throwing these things at you. So I don't know. I think Zverev is just very much focused on each match by match, moment by moment, and he just seems to have a good mindset, which is reflecting in his ranking and in his results, I would say. I don't know if that really answered the question, but that's just generally how I feel. Why do some people in the media pretend that Serena Williams and Maria Sharapova had a serious rivalry? Good question. I will enjoy answering this one potentially. I mean, Serena won the last 19. It's just, well, she won the last... Did she win the last 19 or was it the last 18? She has 19 wins over her total. But either way, I mean, it's a heck of a lot. It's just easy to make a good marketing on it with 2 very popular players. That's the thing. I think this match was more of an excitement because of the personal tensions between Serena and Sharapova in times past, which have been there. Serena says she has no hard feelings, but it has been very dramatic at times, and there have been not exactly wars of words, but there just has been that obvious tension. And ever since Sharapova beat Serena in 2004, Serena has just had that extra intensity against her, and her utter determination to make sure she doesn't lose again, which is fair enough because she was a favourite to win that Wimbledon final in 2004, and that is a loss that really hurt her. And I think it's amazing, really, the way that over all these years she's just remained so intense. And her game is a great matchup to Sharapova because Sharapova basically tries to do what Serena does, but she just doesn't do it half as well. And Serena absolutely crushes her. Everything comes right into her strike zone, especially. For example, I mean, she's crushed her at Wimbledon. The Olympics final in 2012, she only lets her get a single game. Absolutely dominant and ruthless. So this rivalry, which, I mean, it depends what you mean as a rivalry. When you're saying rivalry, do you mean just a head-to-head career with two players, or do you actually mean a close contest between two players? Because they've played each other 21 times, so in that sense it's a rivalry, but it's only a real rivalry if one player has a legitimate chance of beating the other. I mean, there is always a chance, but if one player is actually close to beating, and I'm not explaining this properly. You know what I mean? How do I say this? If it's closely contested, for example, Zverev versus Thiem, a decent number of wins for each of them, and that will probably continue further down the line. So yeah, I think the whole tension between them and the status of both players is what made it a match that people were looking forward to, but also the fact that Serena is coming back from pregnancy, hasn't been playing her best tennis, she's still getting back to her best level, and Sharapova as well. I mean, this gave Sharapova her best opportunity to beat Serena, frankly, because of the changes to Serena's body and the way she's readjusting. But Sharapova hasn't been so great herself since coming back from a drugs ban. She is rounding into form now, and therefore I think she has as good a chance as anyone else to win the French, because she's winning those tough matches when she's down that she used to win and that she hadn't been winning when she first came back. So I think I've gone off topic a bit, but yeah, I never refer to Serena Williams versus Maria Sharapova as a rivalry, because I just don't think it is one. Serena's crushed her, and to be honest, I mean, I know she pulled out today stating that she couldn't serve, and honestly, Sharapova would probably... There's a high chance that she might not have been able to beat her anyway, just because if she ever was in that position where she could possibly beat Serena for the first time in 40. Okay, is it working again? Please leave a comment and let me know if it's working again, because it just dropped again, which is so annoying, and I don't know why. Sharapova just cut the stream. Yes, she did. It totally wasn't my fault. It's working now. Okay, brilliant. Thank you, guys. If it drops again, I'm thinking it's probably because of the Wi-Fi, because it just goes really bad sometimes. However, this is the point it dropped in one of the other videos, so... oh, bye, Simran. I'm sorry I didn't see your comments before. Have a nice day, and I'm sorry these time zones are rubbish for you. Yeah, I think a lot of people were shocked, Simran, when Serena pulled out. But it just goes to show that when she did pull out, that against Sharapova, she doesn't necessarily feel threatened by her, but she does. Okay, is it working now? Has it started again? I hope. If I might have to stop soon, just because I don't know why it keeps buffering and doing this. Maybe people are live streaming something downstairs, I don't know, but may have to stop soon. But yeah, I do think that if it had been... I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that Serena would have played the match if it were another opponent. She probably, at this stage of her career, with the current situation, needs to play it safe. But I just think that it being Sharapova, she probably extra didn't want to take that chance. So... Okay. Right, it's working again. Thank you, guys. Thanks. Stream stuttering really badly. Okay, I'll wrap it up soon because Okay, no, thanks for watching, guys. I'm sorry that the quality is so rubbish. I don't know what to do about it. This exposes the fact that I'm really not a tech expert at all. I don't know how I've got this channel up and running. It's a miracle. But I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Yeah, I mean, it makes total sense that if Serena thought she was going to lose the match, she didn't want to go out and play it. It is the first time that she has withdrawn from a Grand Slam, which shows how big a deal it is, but it also shows how seriously she's taking her comeback, and I wouldn't be at all surprised to see her doing major damage on the grass. And if she hadn't been injured, I could definitely have seen her winning this whole tournament. For me, ahead of the actual event, before we saw how players such as Gobin and Muguruza were playing, it was kind of between, if I had to make a prediction, it was between Petra Kvitova and Serena Williams for me, and neither of them are in the quarters, so happy days. Maybe I need to work on my predictions. Let's go back a bit. Sorry if I don't get to answer everyone, it's totally the stream's fault and no fault of mine, of course. Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe Zverev will have less energy against Thiem, but then maybe that situation, playing a player he knows better and having... I mean, it's a Grand Slam quarterfinals, that's going to energize you. You're kind of going to feel on edge and all these different things, so maybe fatigue will be more of an issue if the match goes long, but in the beginning, I don't think it will affect him too much. That's just my observation. Brain says Thiem, Heart says Zverev. Interesting. Yeah, Djokovic has had a very kind draw so far, I would say, but he's handled it. That's the most important thing, and we'll just have to wait and see how he performs against Cecchinato, and then if he comes up against Thiem or Zverev in the semi-finals, that is going to be the big test for him, and it might be helpful to him that he maybe hasn't had to expend so much energy in that latter stage of a slam. Okay. Oh, Kasatkina's game reminds me of Nadal. I've always thought of Kasatkina as a smaller female version of Nadal, and it shows her favorite player as Nadal, and I think you can kind of see how she's almost got the same game face as him. She just the top spin, the rallying, the way she approaches the game, you can just see as very Nadal inspired. Not to give Nadal any of the credit for her success, but she has been very much inspired by him, I would say. I hope you can still hear me properly. Oh, hey Melinda, I don't know if you're still here, but thanks for dropping in and leaving that comment. Yes, I don't blame you for not being as into it now that your Swiss men are out. They'll be back for Wimbledon, so I hope you'll be watching Wimbledon. Yeah. Yes, I would say Cecchinato is a good clay court player. All his previous finals and titles have come on clay courts. I think 13 finals he's played, all on clay courts. So Cecchinato is very much accustomed to that. He's grown up playing on dirt, so if ever he was to make a move somewhere, it would be on clay, as we are seeing here, and this could be his best shot with Djokovic maybe not at his usual standard, with Nadal on the other half of the draw. This could be his best chance at making the final that he's ever going to see. But he's not really old, and he's not reached yet the point where players are starting to peak at the moment. So yeah. Oh, hello again. You ask, who do you think is the favourite in the women's tournament now? Based on current form, I would say Muguruza. However, she is now playing Sharapova, and she has never beaten Sharapova before. I still feel that when she played Sharapova in 2014 and won the first set 6-1, she probably should have won that match, but I don't think she had the mental strength at that point, which she had 2 years later to go on and win the title. She'd already beaten Serena that year, but she hadn't been pushed by Serena. Are we back? I think we are. Just let me know. This is very frustrating, I know. It's so funny. Every time I mention Sharapova's name, the stream drops. Maybe we should stop. Right, okay, whizzing through now because I'm gonna have to end it. How long have we gone for? Nearly 40 minutes, so maybe it just doesn't like long streams, I don't know. Oh, thank you, Simran, if you watch this back. Very sweet. But yeah, to continue with what I was saying, Muguruza probably the favourite, but needs to get that win over Sharapova. If not, I think, I mean, potentially the winner of the tournament could come out of that match, but there's a lot of good players in there. I think now Serena's out, Halep has more of a chance. She rolled through today. Everyone seemed pretty impressed with her. I was a bit skeptic, which, I mean, I like Halep as a player. I think she's great. I've been backing her to win a Grand Slam for a long time. But at the same time, the mental strength and the composure just hasn't been there at Grand Slams for her. I mean, she had it on her racket pretty much in the French Open final last year and then showed frustration and she was gone. So now that Serena and Kvitova are out, very good chance for Halep if she can sustain the form that she's shown when she gets pushed more, because Elise Mertens did not put up much resistance today. But there are so many players in the draw that could win it, and it is as uncallable as ever, especially, I would say, if Muguruza goes out. But yeah, Muguruza was very under the radar prior to the tournament, and that's when she tends to perform her best at Grand Slams. So I can see her sustaining it for the entirety of the tournaments. There is no rival for Serena Williams in the current contest, maybe Muguruza because she beat her at the French Open, but apart from that, no one. On a consistent basis, no, because Serena is the greatest and she just does everything better than anyone else, but Muguruza obviously knows how to play her on clay, and yeah, there are always going to be players like Muguruza, like Kerber, who beat her at the Australian Open, who can take advantage of a bad or worse day for Serena. But, you know, on her day, the match will always be on her racket, and nothing can change that, really. So I'm just coming to everything that was before. Okay. Yeah. Like, I didn't think that Serena would play if she wasn't fully fit. It just doesn't make sense to. I mean, at this point when she's still trying to come back and just her physical fitness isn't fully there, makes no sense to push herself. And for Serena, however good she is on clay, I guess Wimbledon is always the big one for her, and maybe the US Open because it's her home Grand Slam. So yes, this is a Q&A. Feel free to ask questions, but I am going to be heading off shortly as the stream keeps dropping and I have no idea why. So I also need to sleep at some point, and I'm going to write something for my website, hopefully. I'm sorry if it doesn't go up, but I have a plan or plans, so keep an eye out at thetennisjournal.org. Someone says, I want Kerber to win the title now. Kerber's been playing really well, and surprisingly, I mean, she was played Caroline Garcia and did a good performance against her. Garcia had been in good form, obviously had the backing of the crowd. Kerber dismissed Kiki Bertens in straight sets as well, and Bertens has been one of the standout clay court players of the season and is definitely known as a clay court specialist. So Kerber has the sort of game that should thrive on dirt. She's a counterpuncher, but she can also work those angles. She can be very precise. So, yes. How do you explain this in the women's game? Informed players seem to suddenly collapse on any given day. Caroline Garcia, Elise Mertens, etc. Well, I think those players aren't ranked as high for a reason. Obviously, Garcia is now in the top 10. That's mainly thanks to her winning back-to-back Premier Mandatory titles at the end of last year. So that was a short streak of really good form for her that resulted in a lot of points, and then she played decently at the WTA finals to make the semis. Elise Mertens, meanwhile, still on the rise, and last year was when she really hinted that she might make a breakout, and she reached the semis in Australia, but I mean, hasn't been terribly consistent since. She's got big wins, but she hasn't been like amazing and stand out. So, I guess you can say a player's in form, but it really depends on their opposition. It depends on a variety of factors, and I wouldn't say it's just in the women's game. I'd say it's in the men's game as well, but I'd say that in the men's game, the elite players are better at staying consistent than elite players in the women's game, and there are just a variety of reasons for why that might be. Yeah. How do you compare Nadal's performances so far this year compared to last year? Well, I keep getting to points where I think that he's not quite as sharp as last year, but at the same time, he's still very much mentally there. His problem solving has been great. He was actually pushed a fair amount against Maximilian Marterer earlier, the 22-year-old from Germany, who even when he was 2-0 down, still played as if he could win the match and kept coming back and pegging Nadal back there. So Nadal kind of had to work things out. He couldn't just go out and dominate with the forehand. He really worked the point. So I think probably in terms of physical domination, Nal, what the heck? In terms of physical domination of the game, Nadal was probably better last year. But in terms of mentality and problem solving and all that kind of thing of working his way through matches and showing his mental strength, I would say that Nadal this year is as good as last year, if not better, because at the French Open last year he just wasn't really challenged at all. He hasn't played his best tennis so far this year. In his first round match against Simone Bolelli, even though Bolelli was doing all the right things, mixing things up, making him think and making him work, Nadal wasn't playing his best standard. So I think it's just really shown his mental resolve and his inner ability to dig his way through matches and still come through in straight sets. He hasn't dropped a set at the French Open since 2015, so not too bad. Muguruza could take the #1 spot back, and I think Wozniacki had a shot at it as well, but the the #1 on the men's tour, it's a game of catch between Nadal and Federer, and then in the women's, it's just kind of past the portal between a number of players, really. So I kind of, what happens, happens, and I'm just more interested in the everyday results than in who gets a particular ranking. And I think genuinely, at this moment in time, a lot of the players getting the #1 ranking have had it before. It's probably more important to them to do things like get a Grand Slam, because last year 3 of the players who got to world #1, I think, definitely Simona Halep and Karolina Pliskova, and I think Wozniacki got back to world no, that was the beginning of this year. There was a 3rd player, I think, who got to #1 and hadn't actually won a slam. So Grand Slams are actually kind of remembered more than who got to the world #1 ranking. And actually, if a player got to the world #1 ranking and didn't win a Grand Slam, it's not remembered in a great light. Think Dinara Safina. Okay, I think it's come back. This is the last time anyway. I'm going to wrap it up in the next couple of minutes. Just a couple of things now. Yes, I do think that Roger Federer did have his best shot in ages at this tournament and at the clay courts in general. I don't think he got tired of dirt. I think he's just more interested in the grass court season, in the hard court tournaments as well, where he has a better chance and a better chance of winning and also a better chance of not getting injured. I think the core reason for skipping clay is A, because it worked so well for him last year, sorry, and B, because he doesn't want to get injured. Obviously, he's more fragile now, as we saw in 2016, although that could actually have been the best thing that ever happened to him, given his results since then, or one of, anyway. So, yeah, I mean, Federer could have had a shot at Masters 1000 titles with Nadal in his current form. Could he have had a shot at the French? It depends. I mean, he's beaten Nadal on clay before, and I think maybe over best of 5 sets when the Masters 1000 finals used to be best of 5. So that would have been very interesting, because since 2016, Federer has won all 5 or all 4, I think it's 5 of his matches with Nadal. So yeah, it would just have been incredibly interesting, but I fully understand why he skipped the dirt. And then last one, do you think Kasatkina is a future world #1 and Grand Slam winner? I think she can definitely win Grand Slams. I think there's going to be that opening for players like her in her age range. She's been progressing steadily. She does stall sometimes, but all in all, she has been coming back pretty well. What's happened now? Sorry, it just keeps stuttering now. But yeah, she does have a good game, and it's a bit different to other players. So she seems to change her style sometimes, but that's a good thing that she can play in a variety of ways. And it's hard to say about world number one because of the general inconsistency of some of the players on tour, but she definitely has the talent to win a Grand Slam title in the future. And I believe that, given that we've nearly gone on 50 minutes, 5-0, this is the longest live stream we have done so far. So thank you for watching. Subscribe please to the channel if you haven't done so already. Obviously, if you didn't enjoy the video or you don't like the channel, you don't have to subscribe, but if you do like the channel, it would be helpful if you did subscribe, so I would appreciate that. What else? Yes, over for the semi-finals and final, hopefully I will have up preview and predictions videos. If you want another live stream, then let me know. I might have to cancel this in favor of doing the preview and predictions videos, unless you would rather have this, but those videos are quite popular, so I'm going off stats here. Congrats for the long live stream. Congrats to everyone who stuck around, and thank you for everyone who endured the stream continually dropping. Who knows why this is happening. Yeah. Oh, the Anderson-Schwartzman match, I didn't comment on it. Anderson was playing really, really well at the beginning, and credit to Schwartzman for hanging in there, watching him stumble and not getting distracted and just working things out and finding a way to win. That is amazing fighting spirit from Schwartzman, and yeah, I mean, he plays Nadal next, what a reward, but that was a really interesting match. I tweeted about it a bit. Thank you very much, everybody. It's really nice that you stuck around for this. I'm sure there were other things you could have been doing. Yeah, so subscribe, keep an eye on my social media, because that's when I will be letting you know what's going on. Shame I missed most of the stream. Well, you can watch them, they'll be up, so if you do miss a stream, then you can watch it back, and that might be good, because sometimes I put in the description or something when the stream actually starts, because I tend to ramble, so there we go. Yeah, I guess as the quality of the opinions is more important than the quality of the stream, and hopefully they were okay. So, okay, yes, Love Sport Radio. I was on again earlier. I'll be on again tomorrow at 10 AM British time. Lovesportradio.com if you want to listen online, talking about the French Open. And I think that's about it. So I'm going to wrap up there. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for everyone who's dropped in. Thank you to everyone who will watch the stream after it's over. And yeah, keep enjoying the tennis, and I will see you again very soon. Thanks for watching, and bye.